Eonde Papa, Dr. Darryl Monteau, Akon, SACNAS do. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this virtual space. My name is Dr. Darryl Monteau. I am Kiowa from Oklahoma, originally from Oklahoma, and I am the Associate Director for Mission Programs and Native Initiatives at SACNAS. SACNAS stands for the Society for the Advancement of Chicano, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science. We are so happy that you're here with us today. I am coming to you from Lawrence, Kansas, the original homelands of the Ka, Kickapoo, Osage, and Ochichi-Sakowin. SACNAS, along with the AIHEC Aseto'ne Network Project, is excited to be hosting this event, TCU Collective, TCUs in STEM. This is the first exclusive event SACNAS has hosted for tribal colleges and universities. We recognize the vital role TCUs play in their communities and are in full support of the missions of each individual institution. We hope to build and strengthen our relationship with TCUs and engage students and faculty in STEM. TCUs have been around for over 50 years and have provided educational opportunities for many students, such as myself. I am proud to say I am a graduate of Haskell Indian Nations University, a tribal college alum, and to have graduated from an institution where I was able to bring my whole self to my campus every day was very special to me. SACNAS is an organization that encourages our members to bring their whole selves to all their spaces as well. SACNAS is a fully inclusive organization dedicated to achieving true diversity in STEM. As the nation's largest multicultural and multidisciplinary STEM diversity organization, SACNAS creates space where all members, volunteers, and partners feel they belong and can embrace their intersectional identities. SACNAS is based out of California, which is the original homeland to over 200 tribal nations, bands, and rancherias of Native American indigenous people. We would like to take this time to acknowledge the original inhabitants of the various regions which we all live and work, and honor the rich culture of the indigenous people across the country. Our co-host for today is the AIHEC Aseto'ne Network Project. Many of you are probably familiar with AIHEC, the American Indian Higher Education Consortium. This organization has been around for many years as well and provides leadership and influences policy as it pertains to American Indian, Alaska Native higher education issues, and promotes culture and works to support TCUs in all areas. The Aseto'ne Network Project is an NIH supportive initiative that works to promote and engage interest in biomedical research among TCU students and offers many resources and opportunities. SACNAS is glad to have been able to partner with AIHEC for this event, and we look forward to working on more projects in the future. We would also like to take this time to thank General Motors, GM, for the support in assisting with this initiative to work with TCUs. Also, if you're active on social media, please feel free to tag us and use the hashtag SACNASXTCU. We will reshare all your posts in our social media as well. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gerald Red Buffalo. Gerald is from the Sistenwachta and resides on the Lake Traverse Reservation. He is a student at Sistenwachta College where he is majoring in behavioral science. Gerald is an outstanding student and is very involved with his community. During his time at SWC, he worked with the AIHEC Aseto'ne Virtual Research Institution and noted this experience has opened many opportunities for him. Gerald is also a proud husband and father and valued member of his community. We are honored to have him start off our event with the blessing. Immediately following the blessing, we will go right into welcomes by Najun Minka, SACNAS board member, Dr. Pam Padilla, SACNAS board president, and Dr. Leander McDonald, AIHEC board president and president at United Tribes Technical College. At this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Red Buffalo.
Thank you, Dara. Appreciate those kind words. I'm honored that this prestigious organization has asked me to offer prayer for this amazing event that's taking place here today. I'm going to pray in my Dakota language, then I'll translate it to English. Afterwards, I would like to offer a song of encouragement to all of you who are embarking on an educational journey. Sometimes that path can be treacherous, so we rely on our prayers and support from those around us. So let us take a moment of prayer as we bless this event here today. Hoa kantaka tukashira tate topano chimaka wakan oyate mini oyate wamdi greshka oyate Na wiochpiata wakia oyate. Oonkia pieta ha. Nina ushi diapido. Apetu kire washte nina wopira tanka chichapido. Oyate o ayeki wana washte eta ha. Waunspe. Wakantie. Unki tanta hapido. Hogna o aye. Wayanke. Tukashira. Wo okie unkiapido. Ngdushkapi ki ota. Ki jik tu japido tunkashira. Wakantanka o unya kiapido. Ktahe yokihi washte unkuapido. Tunkashira o unkiapi cha piramiapido. Grandfather of the four directions, creator and Mother Earth, and all the sacred beings and the thunder beings in the west, please help us, for we are pitiful. I thank you very much for this beautiful day you have given us. The advancement of our people is good now because we are seeking a higher education. In this direction, we are making progress. Grandfather, I ask that you continue to help us all with these endeavors. Grandfather, forgive us for all the mistakes we make, for we are only human and make many. Creator, I ask that you continue to help us all. We thank you for all the blessings we receive.
Go away, such a go, let yo, hi, now call right to Hakio, take a low, hi, yo, the Akia, you have
Oh, I stay Pramea, but at this time, we'd like to turn the floor over to two very prominent members of the SACNAS organization, Najun Mecca and Pam Padilla.
Good day, friends. My name is Najun Menka, and I am Koyukon Athabaskan and Danaka, also Lumbee. I'm an attorney and chemist currently serving as the Tribal Cultural Resource Policy Fellow and Lecturer at UC Berkeley School of Law. I also have the pleasure of serving as the Board Secretary for SACNAS and am the Chair for the Native American Indigenous Affairs Committee. SACNAS and I are very excited to be hosting the TCU Collective TCUs in STEM event, along with AIHEC Aseto'ne Network Project. First, this is an exciting event because SACNAS has never hosted an event specifically for tribal colleges and universities, so you're witnessing history right now. It's our hope at this event to engage and connect with TCUs, especially students, to share opportunities and resources and to provide information on how to get involved with SACNAS. We have a wonderful agenda planned for you today. Our keynote speakers, including Dr. Twyla Baker, is president of the Nueta Hidatsa Sahnish College, and Dr. Carmella Kahn is the associate professor at Dine College. We also have a student panel featuring Autumn Cody and Sophia Honahi, who will both be sharing about their research experiences. At the end of the event, we'll be hosting a drawing for 10 $25 gift cards and one registration to attend the NDI STEM conference in Puerto Rico from October 27th to the 29th this year, 2022. So excited to be back in person. So this is your official invitation to join us at this year's SACNAS National Diversity and STEM Conference that will be held in San Juan. And we are currently accepting applications for you student research presentations and travel scholarships. So please, please, please apply to join us in Puerto Rico. We'll be sharing more about how to apply for those later on at this event. And for more information, you can also visit our website, sacnas.org/conference. So Ina Basegana, thank you, friends. It is truly a pleasure to begin what I hope is SACNAS's first of many events specifically for you, our tribal colleges and universities and students.
To the SACNAS Native Initiative, the TCU Collective virtual gathering to discuss TCUs in the science, technology, engineering, and math enterprise. My name is Dr. Pamela Padilla, current SACNAS President, Dean of the College of Science, and Professor of Biology at the University of North Texas, and I am a long-term SACNAS member. I have been involved with SACNAS for over 2 decades, since I was a student in New Mexico, and I am absolutely committed to the vision and mission of this organization. I found SACNAS to be instrumental in my career development as a scientist and as a leader. I'm very excited today about the SACNAS Native American Initiative programming and outreach. Events like today are near and dear to my heart as a woman from New Mexico with Indigenous roots. I encourage you as an attendee to become involved with SACNAS, whether it be through becoming a SACNAS member, volunteer, and by joining us at the SACNAS 2022 NDI STEM conference being held in Puerto Rico. Note to students, there are travel scholarships that are available to attend this conference, and I encourage you to visit our website to learn more about this opportunity. The SACNAS Native American initiatives and programmings, we seek partnership and collaboration with tribal colleges and universities. We recognize that TCUs are culturally rooted gateways to higher education. Thus, we want to increase and sustain partnership with TCUs, and through this grant from General Motors will help facilitate this. Examples of collaborative partnerships include convening with TCU leaders, co-creating TCU-specific campus chapters, and piloting programs with partnering campuses. We at SACNAS look forward to your presence at this event and welcome your energy, input, and presence. Thank you.
Matakapi, Chante was there, you had not bad use of it. Mato Jojo, the Kota Makiapelo. Many will call out na Sahnish, na Hidatsa, na Hopa, Yataki, Mata. Oh, hello, friends and relatives. We're pleased to see you joining us today, and I'm glad and honored to be here to be a part of the event and to say a word of welcome to all of our relatives out there. We want to thank Darryl for the prayer and for the dancers who shared their skills out there. It reminds me, it's good to see that some of my moves are still alive out there. Yeah. But joking all aside is that, you know, I heard several people talk about being tribal college and university graduates, and I myself am one as well. I graduated from Chandesca Chicanate Community College on my home reservation of Spirit Lake Nation, and I would not be here today without our tribal college. And so I'm really pleased to see this event happening. I see the importance of education within our communities, within our tribal nations, while we remember who we are as a people, while we remember our cultures and our way of life. These are the foundations for everything we do as people. This is our spiritual foundation for which we live our lives, our culture foundations. And so I'm again pleased to be here. I think they call me a chairman of AIHEC. I'm not a chairman of AIHEC. I'm the secretary for AIHEC, and I'm the chairman of the American Indian College Board, the board. So, so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't trying to be a chairman for something I'm not. but I appreciate you having me here. I really wish a good session, and I'm pleased to see my my sister. President Baker here to share a few good words on behalf of all of our tribal colleges and universities and all of our good tribal peoples. Thank you very much, and have a good week and prosperous year. That's it to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Aguilera, and I am the Professional and Leadership Programs Manager at SACNAS. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Twyla Baker as our keynote speaker today. Dr. Baker is an enrolled citizen of the 3 affiliated tribes of North Dakota. Born and raised on the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, Twyla left home for several years and built a life away from the reservation, though she maintains strong ties to her home community. Viewing life through an Indigenous lens, her worldview informs nearly everything she does professionally and personally, and she is raising her children to know, see, and carry on their tribal life ways as they were taught to her by her parents. Given her strong grounding in her culture and identity and the social capital that brings, Twyla is particularly suited to carrying out her work within her community. She has spent a lifetime establishing credibility among her tribal people and with the external constituencies. Twyla attended a tribal college herself. She is an alumna of the Nueta Hidatsa Sahnish Tribal College in Newtown, North Dakota, and has returned to her alma mater in an incredibly impactful way. Currently, Dr. Baker is the president of the Nueta Hidatsa Sahnish College, where she continues to empower Native students with the tools they need to succeed. Dr. Baker holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Geology and Technology, a Master of Science degree in Education, and a PhD in Teaching and Learning Research Methodology. Prior to her appointment as the president of NHSC, Dr. Baker served as the director of the National Research Center on Native American Aging at the University of North Dakota. With all of her educational training and as the president of NHSC, she continues to tie her actions from her Indigenous roots. On behalf of SACNAS, I can say that we are truly honored to have you, Twyla, as our keynote speaker for this TCU Collective event.
That was great. Thank you. Dosha Maranakpago, Madashi Mia Maadawish. I am so glad to be here. As was spoken about, I am Mia Maadawish, which means woman of knowledge amongst my own people. My name is Dr. Twyla Baker, and I am president of Nueta Hidatsa Sahnish College, located on the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation in Northwest North Dakota. I was born and raised here, and Fort Berthold was my life for many, many years. And then I left here for a number of years, and I actually got to work with the gentleman you were speaking to earlier, Dr. Russ McDonald. He was one of my mentors and a great friend, He actually helped to craft the path that led to me being here as a president. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later about how we tend to do that in our Indian communities, how we have a tendency to kind of, we're not only forging forward, but we're also reaching behind to lift others up. So that's a crucial part of, I think, what makes organizations like SACNAS, like ACES, like the TCUs work. That's how we get the work done. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak to you all. I am speaking to you from the traditional homelands of my own people, the 3 affiliated tribes. I live and work right on the shores of Lake Sakakawea. It's a reservoir, man-made reservoir. The Missouri River was our traditional homelands up and down the river. I like to remind folks, however, that if you're in North, Central, or South America, it's all Indigenous land. So, you can do a land acknowledgement wherever you are. I actually came to not just my position, but to STEM through avenues kind of similar to SACNAS and through the tribal college. Quite honestly, I feel like I'm sort of the intersection of everything that these organizations are trying to do. The tribal college, the SACNAS, ACES, AIHEC, all of these organizations kind of produce folks like me, I suppose you could say. Tribal colleges and the journey that I've taken to get here were, gosh, I can't even put into words how important they were in my own personal journey, and the people that I met there, at least in becoming the president of NHSC. And the work that we do at tribal colleges really runs the gamut. We are not just engines of scholarship or academics on the reservation. We absolutely are those things to the tribes and the peoples that we serve. But we are also crucial pieces of the community fabric. And by that, I mean, we play a lot of different roles in these spaces, in these rural communities. We are, overwhelmingly present on, at least the tribal colleges that are in existence are overwhelmingly present in rural communities where Indian country is. We are located in the heart of Indian country, so to speak. And we do a lot of different things. We do your standard day-to-day classes, academics, research, and any manner of that typical stuff that you would find on a college campus. But we are also engaged in the day-to-day. We teach salsa making classes over Zoom. We teach folks how to make ribbon skirts. We teach language. We teach culture. We teach history of the 3 affiliated tribes, at least on my campus. So our missions and our purposes are multifold, and there's no shortage of work to do, but there is, however, a shortage of hands to do it. Which I think attests to the crucial need of developing Indigenous scholars, Indigenous professionals to continue to engage in these spaces. And I think that at least within my tenure, within my academic journey and my professional journey, I've seen a kind of a changeover in the purposes and the work that we do, particularly within Native STEM. I've seen it go from a space of, well, we just need to get representation. We just need to get people across the stage. We just need to get people with that diploma in hand, to an arena and a space where we are now speaking to each other as professionals. We are representing our organizations, our tribes, our nations, and now talking to each other as professionals, as the experts of who and what it is that we need as tribal peoples, and also looking for spaces where we can develop professionally, where we can connect what it is that we're doing and the people that we're developing within our institutions and get them into Indigenous enterprise, Native innovation. There's a huge space for us as Indigenous people within Native tech, within Native aerospace, within all manner of spaces. And I think it's been my personal mission, with an unstated mission, to continue to push for that representation, to push for those folks to create these places and spaces for us, because we don't just need to be at the table, we belong there. We were here first, and I'll always use that card, that we are the first people, and I believe that we need to continue to push for that representation and continue to pull our own people forward, because we are the ones that know best what our tribal nations needs, and we have so much to teach the rest of the world. We have so much to teach Western education, technology. We have so much to teach industry, and we also have so much to learn. We also have so much to learn ourselves as well. So our TCUs are engaged in research that can help a tribe understand how to manage their bison herds. They learn how to maintain their watersheds. We are engaged in research that incorporates traditional harvesting and management techniques for salmon, Juneberries. We are working on projects that address and mitigate the impacts of diabetes through traditional and modern techniques. We are working on research projects that help us to understand the impact of COVID on our communities and better prepare us for future pandemics and epidemics. We are working on projects that employ traditional methods of range management through the use of wildfire, and many, many other fascinating and dynamic spaces of understanding our worlds and really understanding and employing knowledge that has existed amongst our people for generations. This stuff flows in our blood. So I'm so incredibly lucky, and I'm very, very happy to have been born to this knowledge and to this blood legacy that we represent, and to be able to have the I guess the task and the responsibility of carrying it forward, however that may appear. Because we are not just historic people, we are not just, people caught in time. We are innovative and dynamic, and we are ever changing, and we are, redefining what it is to be Indigenous, and how we present, and our privilege of the way we get to define ourselves every single day in the work that we do. And we need organizations like SACNAS. We need organizations like ACES and AIHEC to work together in order to get all of this work done. And really our work just kind of all goes hand in hand. There are so many places where it overlaps. And honestly, you're going to run into the same people over and over again in these spaces, because what do we make up, like 2% of the US population? You're going to run into some people. You're probably going to have some aunties that and things, So it's just the nature of being an Indigenous professional. It also means that there's going to be so much work. There's always going to be tasks that are available, and therefore there's always space for new and innovative minds and new energy. There's lots and lots of room. So we have our work cut out for us in order to kind of not just catch up, but to bring the innovation that is inborn within us to these spaces that absolutely need it. These Western mindsets absolutely need the way we think, the way we view our world, because our worldview is the oldest that has existed on this continent, on these continents. So I think that's what drives a lot of the work that I do. And it's also, how I tap into my energy, because honestly, there is a lot of work. And, I'm not just functioning as a tribal college president. I'm also a mom, a community member, a lot of different things. So I draw a lot of my energy and my medicine from folks and spaces like you, like here, like right now. And the fact that we make up such a small percentage of the overall US populations means that our work is crucial to the fabric of American society. Our ideas and knowledge have existed longer than this country has. And it's ironic at times how we see Western scientists and science discover things that we've known about for generations. And we just might have called it by a different name. So I believe that's part of the reason why we continue to build our Indigenous networks and support each other in doing so. I want folks to know, if there's anything that you take away from this, I want folks to know how unique our organizations are, our tribal colleges are, our institutions are, and how different a worldview it is that we bring to these spaces. Part of the reason why we are so different is because these spaces bring a sense of community and a sense of connectedness and a sense of not just individual responsibility, but community responsibility to these spaces. And that's really kind of the secret sauce. I get asked that a lot. I get asked, well, how is it that tribal colleges are able to do this? Why is it that your graduates are 4 times more likely to graduate from our 4-year institutions once they come from a tribal college? That's an actual statistic. It's because we have kind of tapped into that secret sauce and that understanding, and we instill it, we pour it into our students every single day. And just not just their importance, their uniqueness, but also that sense of responsibility. I don't want to get too terribly pan-Indian, but I do know that at least within my own traditional teachings, once you're given knowledge, you're responsible for it. And that means sharing it and propagating it. And that's antithetical to what you're going to find in a Western institution of higher education, where it's very competitive and there can be gatekeepers and things like that. That's not what we as TCUs are about. We're about sharing knowledge. We are about revitalizing knowledge. We are about going back and rediscovering, if we have to, the knowledge that was given to our elders and to our ancestors, and applying it to our modern day existences, because there is applicability. And if anything, there is a deep, deep need for it right now in the world that we are existing in. So again, I take it as my responsibility to continue that work, both personally and professionally, reaching back, connecting with and uplifting our young people who are the future of these movements. How am I doing for time? Actually, I want to make sure I'm not doing over, going too far over. But I do want to make sure that I acknowledge those folks who have made those spaces for me. I'm not sure if folks on the call know that my connection to STEM started with ACES, American Indian Science and Engineering Society, and I am a former board chair. I started essentially at the bottom. I was a student in the 8th grade when I started at ACES, and I found a community that I connected with. And I stayed there all the way to the top. So I think, and I've told some of my colleagues there, my ACES family, that my next role will probably be as an ACES elder or on the Council of Elders. So I'm grateful for that time. I'm grateful for that space and for the opportunities that it crafted and gifted to me. Honestly, a lot of the opportunity that it made for me was very practical. Honestly, I know what it is to be a struggling student, a poor student. And I think if I had not been approached by some of the people within ACES, within the tribal colleges and university systems to come and do research, then I wouldn't be where I am today. I would have been flipping burgers. I literally would have been flipping burgers. There's nothing wrong with flipping burgers, but you can get paid a lot better and you can craft a better and easier, well, not easier, but a different path for yourself with opportunities that are given to you by spaces and places like SACNAS, like ACES, like the tribal colleges and universities. So I think that beyond that, I do want to make note of the missions of tribal colleges and universities, how within TCUs, the stated missions often include a cultural aspect of some sort. And that's not something that you're going to find in other institutions of higher education. One of our tasks, one of our primary tasks really from the inception of the tribal college movement has been to revitalize and to ensure that our traditional knowledge, our history, not just ancient history, but also since the Indian Reorganization Act, tribal governance, politics, policies, all of those things are at the forefront of what it is that we do here, are incorporated into every aspect of, scholarly life here, that we're also taking on scholarly activities that engage these types of work. So it's TCUs are a place where people can come to thrive, honestly. And I am grateful for the fact that we are also public institutions of higher education, which means we are open to everybody. We make these opportunities available to anyone, regardless of whether or not they are enrolled in a tribal nation or not. Therefore, we're not just serving tribal nations, which, we could very well just be doing that, but we are serving our regions, our states, and overall our nation through the work that we do and through the partnerships that we build. So there's a lot of different directions. There's a lot of different work going on at a TCU. I would, and I have encouraged people, if you are able to find a TCU to visit, go there, go find out what it is that they're doing. I guarantee you, folks are doing all manner of different things. I love my job. There's no 2 days that are exactly alike. I can almost guarantee that my role as a college president is very different and looks different from a mainstream institution college president. I don't know if there are other college presidents that sign POs while they're on horseback, you know. I do that. So, and this role has changed me, and I'm hoping that the work in the team that we built here, and all of their experience, all of the passion that they have for what they do, is changing the landscape for younger people, for new scholars, for the next generations, because we're just going to continue doing it, what it is that we're doing. And I see tribal colleges being at the forefront, the tip of the spear for tribal sovereignty, for change in Indigenous communities. So I think that that's where I'm going to leave it for now. And I'm so grateful for the time to spend with you all. And I welcome questions, inquiries, conversation, anything along those lines. You can find me either through social media or through contacting SACNAS or through contacting AIHEC. I welcome emails, any type of correspondence and things of that nature. I try to be that open book auntie as best I can. So, and again, Hidatsa for the time. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Baker, for taking time and sharing those words. It is so important that, you know, we work together and support our students, especially our students that are wanting to aspire and continue on in STEM. So your words were very much appreciated. Thank you again. At this time, I would like to introduce the AIHEC Aseto'ne Network Project Director, Reno Charette. She will be sharing information about the program and will also have presentations by her staff, Maggie Grandin and Lisa LaCroix. So at this time, I will turn it over to Reno.
Good afternoon. I'm glad that you're all here to learn about our project. We're so eager to have tribal college students join the AIHEC Network Project. AIHEC comes from the Northern Cheyenne language, and it means the process of going. So if you could give me the next slide. Great. Maggie will speak with you about the Institute and the kinds of classes and things that we offer students. These are credit-worthy courses, or we call them journeys. Next slide, please. We also provide mentoring for all tribal college students who would like to have a mentor. And Lisa LaCroix will speak with you about how tribal college faculty or natives in the healthcare science fields can be your mentor. So next slide, please. We also are seeking peer mentors, students who are even attending any college in our country can apply to be a peer mentor. We also, like other tribal college students, to mentor the participants in our program, any tribal college student that wants to enroll in mentoring. When they're in the Institute, they get two mentors. One is a peer and the other is a faculty or a professional. Next slide, please. So this is the part that I chose to talk with you about today, and it's our video library. It recently went live, and we have well over 100 videos that are focused on research skills, introducing you to Native researchers and how they feel about getting into their careers, Native mathematics, qualitative, quantitative measures for research, the Native COVID experience, cultural resilience. There's all kinds of topics that are Native focused for science and research. And we would like to see tribal college faculty get into that library and start using some of those products. It will help with building your lesson plans and your lectures for your courses. So you can always get in touch with one of us through the AIHEC website and the site here, http://learning-products.ahec.org/. That'll get you right to the video library. So now I think my staff is going to speak with you about their special projects.
Hi, my name is Maggie Grandin. I'm the ASeto'ne Network Program Assistant, and I'm going to talk to you very briefly about the virtual ASeto'ne Institute. The ASeto'ne Institute is an AIHEC-led online project designed for TCU students, but it is open to all college and university students. This program will teach you about vitally needed health research career opportunities with curriculum that's centered around health and biomedical research in your academic pursuits, but also in your future professional pursuits. As I mentioned, this program is open to all students, and students are accepted through open enrollment. However, we do have our first cohort of the 2022 season beginning April 1st. This program is entirely delivered online through Praxis, and this is where you will meet with other students, with faculty and staff, and complete presentations, videos, workshops, and activities. It's really easy to apply. We have a link available to share with you. And as long as you complete that application, we are able to begin enrolling you in the ASeto'ne Institute. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my name is Maggie, and you can reach me at mgrandin@ahec.org. All right, thanks so much.
Greetings. My name is Lisa LaCroix, and I am the mentor coordinator for the ASeto'ne Virtual Institute. First, I want to highlight the benefits of becoming a mentor. Mentoring at any level plays a critical role in student success and meeting their educational goals. Mentors are invaluable and do make a difference in student success. Secondly, there are some points worth noting at the ASeto'ne program. First, the program is available year-round and accepts all interested applicants. Secondly, the program is delivered online through our learning platform, Praxis. Third, ASeto'ne mentors are compensated for their time and efforts. If you are thinking about becoming a mentor, we do have options. Option 1, if you are a native student with experience in biomedical or behavioral health research, you can become a peer or a near-peer mentor. You would be providing assistance and support to undergraduate students. Second option, you could become a health research mentor. To become a health research mentor, you must be a tribal college university faculty or instructor, or a native professional with experience in health or biomedical fields. Both types of mentoring are equally rewarding in making a difference in a student's educational journey. I hope you will consider becoming a mentor. Thank you.
Ashi initially Tatnazani Bashishchi when I'm with Ashiche, it's a one Dashinella. Tolanas does it dead Nasha, Shama Doshaja A Angela Riggs, Do Gary Riggs, Otto Gary Hunani Munya. Hi everyone, my name is Sophia Hunani. I am half Navajo, half Hopi. I am from Tuba City, located on the Navajo Reservation in northern Arizona. And my parents are Angela and Gary Riggs and Gary Honani. And I will be presenting my experience with the HERS program with Haskell and KU. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be talking about HERS, also known as the Haskell Environmental Research Studies Institutes. And I'm currently a senior at Haskell, dual enrolled at KU in the environmental science program. Okay, so a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm Navajo and Hopi. I'm a senior at Haskell, and I'm also a member of the volleyball team. And this is us during the 2018 championships. And this is also how I got introduced to the HERS program through my head coach, Mona Allison Brewer. So a little bit about the directors. The founder is Dr. Daniel Wildcat. The directors are Dr. J.T. Johnson and Philip Cody Marshall. And the associate director is also Dr. Joseph Brewer II, which is my head coach's husband. It's a collaboration amongst Haskell, KU, and the Kansas National Science Foundation, NSF. When I attended, it was an 8-week program based in Lawrence, and the mentees and mentors were from across the US. Okay, so this internship was very writing based. The goal was for students to gain an understanding of evidence-based research of human-produced climate change and its physical and social impacts. They also wanted us to get an understanding of literature-based research and also prepare us for graduate level writing and research. There were 5 major areas for this internship, which was research, writing, presentation, technology, and overall professional development. So when I started my research, we all were broken into groups, and we had this brainstorm worksheet that helped us narrow down our research, what we wanted to research. For me personally, I was a bit overwhelmed, and it was a little difficult for me to narrow down exactly what I wanted to research, just because this was my first research internship. So I was pulled aside by one of the directors, Dr. Brewer, and we looked at my reservation as well as the Hopi reservation, and we broke it down into what really affected my culture and pretty much my daily life. So we decided to go with the abandoned uranium sites and also look at the importance of corn used by both the Navajo and Hopi. So we looked at that relationship and how could it expand outside of our sacred use of corn. So this is a daily routine of how the 6 weeks went. We would start in the morning with presenters, both local and non-local. They would share their research, their programs, possible opportunities for us after undergrad. Then in the afternoon, weekly, we would go through writing clinics. Like I said, it was a very writing-based internship. So researching is one thing, but also learning how to start a research paper was our main focus in writing an effective paper. So we used different worksheets to help us with that. And then in the afternoon, we met with our groups. It was a very relaxed setting to go over the day, anything that we found interesting, pros and cons, the weekly assignments that Brian gave us, and overall just to talk about how our research was going and anything that we really wanted to talk about, actually. Okay, so here are some of the major assignments that we worked on during this internship. So every week we had 3 to 5 research articles that were due. So like we would go through different research articles and we would learn how to cite them, how to gather information from them, just to have it accessible when we were writing our paper. And we went through the progress of our papers and also our poster presentations. Some extra writing templates that we were given were mostly just to help us with our paper, brainstorming, anything that we really needed. And we also broke down our poster. So we went over literature review, methods, data analysis. And like I said, it was very writing based, which really helped me out a lot. And here are some of the research sites or travel that or places that we went during this internship. We went through Manhattan and Kansas. We explored Haskell Wetlands, the Prairie, and also at the end of 6 weeks, we went to Boulder, Colorado. And I have a few pictures from our first trip. So the Kanza Prairie Biological Station near Manhattan, Kansas. Here we visited Kansas State. We did a few lab visits just to see how it was during grad school. And we also stayed on the Kanza Prairie. Here's a few more pictures of us. During our free time, we were allowed to do a lot of hiking, just explore the area, and yeah, which was very fun. And our second trip at the end of six weeks was in Boulder, Colorado at the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research. Here we presented our poster presentations, and we also went through various presenters just to talk about possible opportunities post-grad. And in the meantime, free time, we also got to do a lot of hiking, fishing, kind of exploring with our different groups. So here I have some more pictures. On the left, we are doing a few water samples from one of the streams. In the lower left-hand side, you can see Dr. Brewer leading us through it. And the other two photos are of us working through one of our presenters at Boulder. And we are going through wind speed, direction, that kind of stuff. So that was very interesting. Some more pictures from Boulder. So these pictures are during our free time. These are my group, my mentor, my mentees. We went hiking in our free time, and we were also able to go fly fishing, which was my first time. It was very nice in Colorado. And finally, here is my research poster. So I personally looked at expanding outside our sacred use of corn, looking more at the anatomy of it and how we could use it as a possible remediation on the Navajo reservation. Basically, corn is able to uptake these chemicals from the soil, although it will take a while, so it still needs more research as shown. But this is what I presented in Boulder, Colorado. So this is my, the impact that HERS has had on me. Not only has it increased my networking through the mentors and mentees, it increased my writing and research skills, my overall professional skills. I'm able to effectively write a research paper down to the structure of an effective paragraph. So that was very interesting. And here are my plans post-grad. So right now, I do want to continue my education up into my PhD. I also want to continue volleyball. It's a big part of my life, a major priority. I want to continue as long as I can. And long-term goals, I do plan to return to my reservation, expanding outside of that as well. I'm sure, as many of you know, there's a high demand for STEM instructors or researchers on reservations. So I plan to go into those, or I also want to do a high school college advisor while coaching. So I feel like these are my possible routes to help my community in my own way. And that's it, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. We really wanted to include students, especially students that have done research at their respective institutions, to really highlight their work and their involvement, and to also share, you know, what these experiences are like. It's really a wonderful thing, you know, for us to see, and we would love to support our students in as many ways as we can. And we are so appreciative that Sophia and Autumn have both taken time to share their work. Autumn, as you know, as she mentioned, is a current student at Haskell and was involved with the HERS research program. And that is also a really wonderful internship program that I believe they may currently still be seeking applications for. And Autumn actually was a participant with the Aseto'ne Network Project as an undergraduate. And she is will be sharing her research that she's done. And again, I feel that it's just so important that we highlight these students and their work. You know, there's so many opportunities that come our way, especially for our TCU students. And we want to be able to, again, as I said, support and engage them. And it's really refreshing to see, you know, Sophia was able to share what it is that she wants to do in the future. And so again, thank you, Sophia. And we will now move over to Autumn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Autumn Cody. Yate she'e Autumn Cody yanisha bilagana nishle tutsoni bashishchin bilagana dashishche sitnajini dashanella. Hi, my name is Autumn Cody. I'm half Navajo, Dene, and I am half Caucasian, specifically Italian from Sicily, from some ancestry over there. And I'm just so excited to be here with you all today and to share a little bit of the research I've been doing at Northern Arizona University, and to just talk about, you know, how these types of programs have really impacted my own life and just the experience and all of the knowledge that I've gained from it. And so I want to just start out by doing a land acknowledgement, and one that we do specifically for Northern Arizona University, just because I feel like this is important and is an honor to our tribes here in Arizona, but also throughout our nation and globally. So I would just like to do that now. So Northern Arizona University sits at the base of the San Francisco Peaks on homelands sacred to Native Americans throughout the region. We honor their past, present, and future generations who have lived here for millennia and will forever call this place home. And so I just wanted to start with that because even having the chance to be here with all of you, I just want to thank my ancestors and thank the people and the mentors that have gotten me here. So with that, we'll get into it. Into the next slide, please. And then whenever we're ready. Okay, so first I wanted to start off by giving you a little bit of background on who I am. So again, my name is Autumn Cody. Here you'll see some pictures of me, specifically at the Native American Culture Center here at NAU that I work for. And so as an undergraduate, I have spent a lot of time working with students and engaging within my community to try to help and support. And with my education and my pursuits, that's all I really just hope to take it home. And so I do come from a big family here on the Navajo Nation, and I'm just so grateful for them. They are my life, they are my love. So just wanted to highlight that. I am a graduating senior, so I will be graduating May 6th here at Northern Arizona with my Bachelor in Science and Psychological Sciences and with a Queer Studies minor. And so I've just really enjoyed my time here. You know, Northern Arizona is my home. Currently more in the White Mountains area as we're speaking, but Arizona is just amazing, as is the rest of the nation and all of the tribes and the communities I've been able to see. So with that, we will go into the introduction. So what is autism spectrum disorder? ASD is a developmental disability that can cause challenges in language development, learning, social communications, and behavior per the CDC. And so autism is seen as a spectrum, and the spectrum can be quite large. And so that was actually something I ran into while looking at presenting my information and doing my research, was just how large the spectrum falls and just how much of a barrier that can be, not only to me, but to our communities and our physicians. And so specifically, I was looking at the prevalence in the United States. And so according to the data from the CDC from 2018, it was reported that about, or not the CDC, I apologize, Manor. It was reported that about 1 in 44 children are at the age of 8 years old when they first receive an ASD diagnosis. And so specifically in my research, we're looking at the autism types diagnosis and kind of categorizing them and looking at a correlation between infantile versus children, and then anything that falls outside of that diagnosis timeframe and adolescence as other. And so that is kind of just a preview into how I categorize the data. And we have been using with my mentor and here at Northern Arizona University, big data research to change the ways that we use and do and conduct research with methodologies. And so given that we live in this new technological age where we have so much data being collected, it's a big task to try to utilize that ethically, but to also utilize that within our communities and positively, so that we can conduct research on a much bigger level that was not possible before, and so that we can do it to offer more particular diagnosis and more support to our communities, and especially our Indigenous communities. And so ASD particularly presents challenges to behavioral, social, and communication aspects of an individual's life occasionally. And then also it can be considered a disability and can cause physical impairments as well as difficulties in language and learning. And so again, thinking back to the diagnosis and how they vary and how that can be a potential barrier, not just in diagnosing adolescents, but also into adulthood. So next slide, please. So here you will see kind of a breakdown specifically into a Indigenous visualization by Ann Wilson. And so we have kind of a visualization here that looks and plays into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so what this visualization is showing us is that on the west side, on the left, we go kind of from a bottom to top up research methodology. And so it is very much one-way linear. And this is Western, usually how we look at education and how we look at our research. And so, you know, the basis being food, shelter as our first priority, you know, and then career, self-actualization. And then we get into some of the higher actualizations of individualism and profit. And so in comparison to that, in some of these Western ideologies, we also have our Indigenous First Nations on the right here, and that perspective and how that's different. It's not quite as complex. It's a little bit more flow freeing, and it's a teepee in this visualization, which to me helped, you know, when categorizing and looking at this research and really looking at the differences between Western and traditional ideology. And so being blessed with our basic needs is definitely something we need, giving thanks for those things in our communities, and learning and creating circles of trust, community, security, safety, and health is a priority. And so I just wanted to start out with that so that we know, and I have come to learn that that is the baseline of care for our communities. And so all the research that we're doing and all the research I'm involved in is really to support our communities and to offer the services that are needed. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide. So I did do a literature review when conducting this research. And upon doing that and working with very large amounts of data and research and articles, it was hard to kind of narrow it down, especially into categorizations of areas that I wanted to focus on while looking at autism spectrum disorder. And so more generally, those subsections would be socioeconomic status, / race and ethnicity, which could also be categorized with culture, and then looking at education specifically, since my research was driven in the adolescent, you know, more educational / efficacy and, you know, support systems that we're having and we're utilizing for our children. And so just here, there are some highlighted points that I would invite you all to read over. I won't read them all to you, but I do just want to make a couple comments on each sections as to some of the things that I found most notable. And so starting with our socioeconomic status, ASD has often been thought of as a disorder for the affluent, yet it is equally as common among low socioeconomic status families, but goes underdiagnosed because of socioeconomic statuses. Along with this, we have a lack of resources often, and money often that goes to families is being used to search for diagnosis instead of actual advice and treatment. And so that is a barrier and something I believe that is really standing in the way of us utilizing and maximizing the full potential of our services. Additionally, race and ethnicity, our children from Hispanic households specifically in my research were seen to be diagnosed with ASD less than white and non-Hispanic Black children. And so this was a newer study that was conducted, and I thought this was interesting since while my research and my priority and foci is specifically in our Indigenous communities, along all of our marginalized POC communities, this is something where diagnoses are seen less, and those could be due to the barriers and such as socioeconomic status, culture, and just generalized differences in diagnosing. And so that's something that is notable to me. And then culture was kind of one of the main aspects that I focused on, especially in my research. And so we do see higher cases of ASD and other disabilities in our rural and urban communities, especially on our reservations and within our First Nations people. I have personally seen it in my own family and in my own life. And so I'm very passionate about it. And I think it's something that we have to take note of and that we need further research on to expand upon the services that we're providing. And so the predominant narrative in Western society of autism as a disease is that the medical model contrasts with more positive, empowering views of autism as a difference. And so in the social model, that's seen more of as a neurodiversity movement. And so we are seeing those within a Western hegemonic society kind of coming through with this new wave of understanding autism and autism spectrum disorders. I did and have focused on a cross-cultural analysis, which emphasizes the distinguish between Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic nations, which are usually the populations we are pulling our research from, which are oftentimes undergraduate students taking classes, doing surveys. And so when we're conducting research, this is also a potential barrier as it offers a less cross-cultural analysis of the research that is being conducted, therefore leaving out our marginalized communities, our Indigenous communities, and our people of color, and just our communities in general that really need these love and support and community that it is lacking in some areas. And so in Indigenous nations specifically, modes of knowledge are different, especially they're seen in our traditions, in our cultures, they're in our songs, they're in our prayers, they're in our, our jewelry. And so really thinking about utilizing research, especially in any field, but specifically with autism, to look at how we bridge the gap between Western and traditional knowledge. Because I feel like, especially within my own life and in general, that's what's missing. And that could be the key, especially to not just diagnosing, but to treating and supporting these individuals. And so differentiations and methodologies of cognition, thought, and perception are also noted. And so just something I really wanted to emphasize within culture, and especially within groups like this, and within, a room full of academics and highly, motivated people who are really committed to serving our communities. And so finally, for this slide, education is something I wanted to touch on briefly. Teachers are often uneducated about how to deal with social and behavioral issues in the classroom. So sometimes that might look like aggressive outbursts, situations. My own mother is a 5th grade teacher, and I have just personally seen and heard a little bit over the years as well about the struggles that she's had when dealing with some of these especially undiagnosed children that she's trying to advocate for and get extra services. And so not only does that make it a little bit difficult in a learning environment for our other students and for our children, but it also poses a problem for our educators and for our support staff and for all of those who are working to give these children the support and the love and care that they need. And so inclusive school life can be extremely beneficial for students with ASD, but it is not always implemented as such, especially out of fear of how it will affect teachers and other students. And so that's something I would really love to see change and embrace, but specifically in our nations. So I will go on to the next slide. So just to describe the data set that I was working with, I did use a CDC data set. And so big data research is looking at, again, that technological age we're using in, and taking all of that, especially if it's done in an ethical way, to scrape that data and utilize it. And so I found a data set by the CDC. I created a simple code in Python, and then I ran it and cleaned the data about 3 different times, which we'll see here coming up within the graphs and visualizations as well, to try to really get to the root of, the statistical significance of my study, as well as just the rest of this research that is ongoing. And so I did find my research again from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which was just free open service. You just download the CSV. I've worked on cleaning and coding the information, especially into that infidel and childhood and other categories, to then be able to do a t-test and to look at correlational statistical analysis. And so the data set contained a total of like 201 raw data samples, which were all, unnamed, unmarked, but had a very, very large difference and variety in the diagnosis and what they were calling it and how they were categorizing it. And so one of the things I really did have to do was clean and go through every single data point to try to not only fit it into the categorization for the research that I was looking at, but to also understand exactly what this massive data set was looking at. And so I did end up only at the end with about 25 columns that had 201 sections. But as I'll mention later, I only ended up with about 20 or so that were actually able to be utilized at the end when I did look to do more specific tests. And so that's something that is also of note, and was one of the main takeaways that I had from the data set, was just how large our spectrum is for diagnosis and how much of a barrier that is presenting within our communities to diagnose, but also treat and support our children and our individuals within our communities. And so I just gathered the universal statistics from a wide range of geographical areas, and ran and created a simple code in Python, and used these new data scores and criteria to identify the data we're looking for. And so, looking at specifically the categories I looked at were confidence intervals, diagnosis mediums, adaptive scores, and estimate for autism prevalence per 1,000 in a sample size. And so next we'll go on to the ethics, and that's just a little bit about the data set. So within our ethics, especially in psychological sciences, but in all interdisciplinaries, we strive to do good and to use our powers for good. I have a mentor, and she always says, the whole Superman, Spider-Man, like, what are you have this power, so what are you going to use it for? You have to use it for good. And so when looking at this new frontier of research and these new methodologies, we're really looking at how we navigate those ethically and how we teach that to our students and our future academics and our teams, so that we aren't, overstepping any boundaries. Especially, I attended a UC Berkeley webinar on the law within all of this new big data science, and looking at how new this field is, especially within psychological sciences and within research, but how that would look on a large scale, especially with law and protecting the rights and the sensitivity and the privacy of our constituents and our participants. And so we definitely want to adhere to the APA and RARB ethical standards, as well as within my own data set. The CDC, is a reputable source and does a lot of amazing work. And so luckily with that, I wasn't as worried when looking for the data set and beginning this research to make sure how ethical and reputable it was, just because it was an open source. However, you can get into some gray areas, especially if you're scraping information straight off of the internet and data sets without permission and in non-open source formats. And so this is something that we have to be very conscious about, especially as we frontier into this new developing fields within research. And so just the ethics of it all. For example, LinkedIn. Most people have a LinkedIn. I'm in the process of starting mine up right now, but LinkedIn is something where, you can Google someone and you can see all of their work, you can see all their accomplishments, and you can see all of their information. However, there are privacy concerns, there are ethical concerns, and all of these other things that make it worthwhile for us to really probably create some harder protocols for conducting research, but also adhering to those APA and our IRB, ethical standpoints and standards that we have to utilize within our research. And so we'll go to the next slide for the visualization. So here's a cute little visualization of the 3 different graphs that I was able to create while utilizing the data after it had been cleaned. So the first one is a scatter plot, which is kind of hard to decipher. There's at least 10, 12 different colors that are all vaguely similar, and it was computer generated. All of these were within the data. And so it was really hard to decipher. I could draw a line of best fit. However, for a correlational test and just in general looking, it was really hard to decipher the data out of this. So with working with my mentor, we decided how would we look at this? Well, we would clean the data and especially categorize and create another list within the data set, distinguishing which category it fell into, which would either be infidel, child, or other. And then really looking at the 2, especially for a correlation and a t-test. And so after doing such and just creating that extra column, we then have the second visualization here, which you can see has quite an interesting x-axis on both of them, and how they're saying Down syndrome and calling, autism spectrum disorders and recognizing them, especially through the code and through the computing, as Down syndrome and as these other categories. And so just being mindful of that and mindful of how impactful that might be. And then the final one is, after creating another additional column and cleaning the data, is just pulling out those 2 groups and then running the correlational so that we are able to see some of the statistical, analysis and how really, I believe it is, I can't see it too well, but the infidel or the children group that are, more significantly statistically diagnosed. And so also, as noted before, I started with, a large data set from the CDC and ended up with only, I would say, a small handful of utilizable data due to, the nature of this. And so on the next slides, we can just go through them. It's just these individualized graphs that are a little bit easier to see. And so this was the first one with the original data set. If you plug it in with the code and everything else directly into a computer generated source. And then the next one is here, this bar graph. And there again, we get into the different diagnosis. And that was something that really stuck out to me initially before conducting and finishing some of this research. Again, how our diagnoses vary and how that is kind of a barrier and extremely difficult for physicians to combat. And then finally, that last complete graph looking at autism spectrum disorder prevalence per 1,000 in our 2 groups of infidel and child, and looking at when and how much and what the prevalence is within those rates within the groups for diagnosis. And so next, I just wanted to summarize about everything we were talking about and really define the research question that I had going into this research. And so my research question was, how do differences in autism spectrum disorder types correlate to prevalence with age in childhood development states? And so especially thinking in terms of developmental psychology and in terms of, the next steps, which we'll get to after this slide, is how do we combat this? How do we narrow down and how do we get on the same page about diagnosis? We have the DSM-5, we have, these understandings and educations that are widely shared, but also specifically in our Indigenous nations, how does that look and how is that perceived? Because we have different modes of education, of community, and of care, and just understandings that are different to Western ideologies. And so I would like to continue specifically this research into more specifics to look at how that looks on a national level, not just within and, particularly in my own nation, but on, a global and national level. And so that would be quite an undertaking, but it would be something that I would be super interested to see and to see what we could do with that. And so again, the categories And within our results, a large portion of the data was irrelevant, and more specific diagnoses are needed to strengthen our research validity, and a larger population and data set specifically tailored to my research findings and questions would be needed to strengthen the validity of these results. However, and I did not get it included on this slide, it was statistically significant above 1 with Pearson's R. So, you know, looking at those and including those on my PowerPoint, I apologize. But exactly, our CDC data started off with 200 sets. We ended up with 21. And shout out to CDC for conducting the research and giving those data sets that I was able to utilize and look at and learn to conduct this research, you know, in my finishing up my undergraduate degree at Northern Arizona University. And so, yeah, we will go on to the next steps. So next steps is there is no current diagnosis criteria for adults with autism, and the criteria for children is typically used to diagnose adults, which is a major problem and needs to be looked at, and again, needs to have a more specific protocol, especially within our First Nations. Additionally, future research questions is how can autism diagnosis criteria be made more relevant to the adult population? And how can we support Indigenous nations in diagnosing autism spectrum disorder? And how do we bridge those gaps in the disparities that we are seeing and that I was able to see just in the brief research that we conducted? And so with that, we would need more data and more symptoms and strict and more cohesive diagnosis that are very specific in what we're looking at and how that is within children versus adult, because there is a lot of overlapping within the spectrums and within diagnosing. And then we would also need to look at the intentional and unintentional masking techniques that are used by adults to suppress behaviors into society. And so that is also something we have to take into account when diagnosing, is that we do have highly functioning, highly efficient individuals and loved ones who are, you know, able to mask a lot of these symptoms. And so when diagnosing, that is another barrier that we're facing and something that has to be accounted for when looking and going forward. And so with that, we will conclude the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions or receive any comments. Also, again, my name is Autumn Cody. I appreciate your time today. And here's my information. You have my student email, my personal email, and my phone number if you need anything or have any questions going forward, and then you don't have any at this time. And so thank you so much. The next slide is references, but if you want to leave this up for a minute, I would be more than happy to answer any questions as best to my ability.
Great, thank you so much. Wow, so impressed with the sharing and you know, the presentations that both Sophia and Autumn gave. I know that makes me you know, even more hopeful and excited for the future. Again, thank you both so much for taking time to share and to be here with us today. Again, yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to introduce Katerina Oviado. She is our Student Programs Manager at SACNAS, and she is going to share information on how students can attend our conference this year. So with that, I will turn it over to Katerina.
Thank you, Darryl, for the introduction. As Darryl mentioned, my name is Katerina, and I serve as the SACNAS Student Programs Manager, and I'm very glad about this opportunity to speak and share with you all what SACNAS has to offer. What wonderful presentations we just heard. I want to speak to the students about the opportunities we have for you. So it could be you next time presenting, just like we had Sophia and Autumn presenting their research to us. So as Dr. Monteau shared with you, one of the largest events we have is the National Diversity in STEM Conference. So I would like to invite you all to attend and play an active role by presenting the science you are doing now. Next slide, please. We have two types of presentations during the conference, poster presentations and oral talks. Poster presentations will take place, if you could go the slide before. Poster presentations will take place at the exhibit hall as shown on this slide. Community college undergraduate and graduate students are eligible to apply for the poster presentations, while only graduate students are eligible to apply for the oral talks. The format for oral talks is in the room. We will schedule 4 students from the same discipline who will use the slides to present their research to the mentor judges and other attendees. Next slide, please. So here you can see the eligibility. You need to be a SACNAS student level member, be at least 18 years of age at the time of the conference, so this fall, be one of the following at the time of submission. For spring, we accept everyone, community college, undergraduate, postbac, fellow, graduate students, and during summer application period, we accept only undergraduate students in the summer research programs. With that said, if you're a student, you are eligible to apply. Next slide, please. To do so, you will need to submit a research presentation application by April 15, 5 p.m. Pacific time. So currently, the spring application period is open and we're accepting applications. We'll also have a summer application period, and that is from June 8th until July 8th. Also 5 p.m. Pacific time. This time is very important, 5 p.m. because the platform will automatically close. So make sure you submit before this time. Good news, if you are applying during the spring and your application for some reason doesn't get approved, you are eligible to reapply in the summer. So if you are not in a summer undergraduate program and you applied in the spring, you will receive feedback from your reviewers. You can edit your abstract and reapply in the summer and have much better chances to be approved. Also, in order to access the application, you will need to follow the path on the bottom screen. So you will have to go to SACNAS.org, conference and events, research presentation tabs, and you will see the big red button, apply now. Once you access the application, you will see that the application is very short and won't take a lot of time as long as you have the main components of the application ready. So here are the steps that you will have. You will have to type your title of the research, some demographic information that is not visible to reviewers, the full name and degrees of each author. So yours will be first, you as a primary author who submits, and then you will add everybody who contributes to your research. And then finally, the main component of the application is abstract. The abstract maximum can be 250 words, and it should have short intro, hypothesis or statement about the problem under investigation, a statement of the experimental methods, materials used, results provided in a summary form. And here important, if you are currently conducting the research and you don't have results yet, preliminary results are okay. Just make sure you add anticipated results. You can mention in your abstract that it's still in the process. There are no final results, but these are preliminary results. And then concise conclusion. SACNAS has produced a webinar on how to write a successful webinar. The speakers in this webinar were all the SACNAS reviewers. They also come to the conference mentor judge, so it's a great resource. You can find that webinar on SACNAS website, also on SACNAS YouTube channels. Now a few tips for successful application. Make sure you ask your peers and mentors to read and provide you with the feedback on your abstract. Double check for grammatical errors before submitting your application. Start your application early and I apologize for my son screaming in the background, since you don't have to finish the application at the moment. So the cool thing about SACNAS platform, you can go ahead, open application now, get familiar, and you don't have to finalize it until April 15, 5 p.m. So there's no reason until to wait until the last moment. However, after 5 p.m., as I mentioned before, the platform will be closed. So we unfortunately will not accept late submissions or abstracts via email. When you choose your discipline in the application, make sure you select the discipline your research is in. So maybe some students are in disciplinary studies. So just select the discipline from our list, and we have a very long list of disciplines and then sub-disciplines that you think fits your research the best, because that's how the reviewers will be assigned to your application. Also, if you work in groups on the same research, you will need to submit an individual application. So each member of your group is eligible to present at the SACNAS on the same research, but we don't do group presentations. So each student will have to submit their own application with their with the abstracts written in their own words. So no duplicates. Next slide, please. So now I love this picture. We haven't been in person for the SACNAS conference for 2 years. And this picture, it just shows during the plenary how we all get together and have a meal and just being as one community. So now I want to talk to you about the SACNAS Travel Scholarship. The Travel Scholarship includes a round trip to Puerto Rico, lodging, and the conference registration. Next slide, please. Let's talk about who is eligible for this scholarship. So you will need to be a current student, be at least 18 years of age at the time of the conference, and be one of the following during fall 2022. Community college, undergraduate, postbac, or graduate student interested in pursuing higher education in STEM fields. So very similar eligibility to research presentation. The deadline to submit is the same as research presentation, so until April 15, 5 p.m. And we also have two application periods, one in the summer that is identical to research presentation. However, make sure you submit, if you want to present, submit one application for research presentations, and then if you want a scholarship to get to the conference, make sure to submit a travel scholarship. I will mention now, so I don't forget later, students who don't do research and will not submit research presentation are still eligible to submit application for travel scholarship. So, and to access the application, again, you will have to go to sacnas.org, conference events, travel scholarship tab. You'll have the same path to access the application as you did for the research presentation. Now, let me walk you through the application. You will need to submit your contact details. Then you will need to provide your recommenders, contact information in your application. Your recommender will receive an email with instructions and a link to upload the letter. You will just need one letter of recommendation. That recommender could be your instructor, your professor, administrator in your school. It just can be your friend or your family member. So someone you know on a professional level. I would suggest, before you submit their names in this application, talk to them, send them an email, give them a call, let them know that you came across this amazing opportunity, and if they will be okay if you submit their name for them to write a letter of recommendation for you. So next that you will need is statement of purpose. So statement of purpose is maximum 500 words. You will need to describe your research interest and the importance of research to you. Make sure to describe your interest in pursuing research relevant to biomedical or behavioral sciences. And I'm mentioning this because that's the our main grant that we have that funds travel scholars. But if you are not interested in those fields, that's okay, because we also have different funding. For a statement of purpose, describe your academic and career goals and how the SACNAS conference can help you achieve them. Describe why you would benefit from receiving the travel scholarship to attend the conference. And also to address all topics with your personal examples. And then the last item for the scholarship application is to upload the unofficial transcript to your travel scholarship. And it could be as a PDF file. If you are transferring in the fall, please provide your current unofficial transcript and an acceptance letter from your new institution. Your transcript must include your full name, institution name, relevant coursework, and major. Reviewers don't look at your GPA or your grades. A transcript serves simply as verification that you are a current student, since it's part of the eligibility that you have to be student. And so everybody who submits applications for research presentation and or travel scholarship by April 15, they will be notified on their status on May 24. And then all this information is on SACNAS.org, so you don't have to remember all these dates. We have it all listed on those relevant pages that I shared earlier. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat, or feel free to contact us.
Hello, my name is Daniela Bernal, and I am Associate Director of Communications and Membership at SACNAS. I'm joining you today from Santa Cruz, California, the original lands of the Ama Mutsun, Ohlone, and Awaswas tribes. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our next featured speaker, Carmella Kahn, MPH, Dr. PH. Dr. Kahn is an assistant professor at Dine College and is originally from Mariana Lake, New Mexico. Dr. Kahn completed her Doctor of Public Health degree at the University of Arizona, Mel and Enid Zuckerman College of Public Health in August 2018. For over 14 years, she has worked on community-based participatory research projects with urban and rural American Indian communities. During the last 7 years, she was an instructor for the Dine College Summer Research Enhancement Program and has served as co-director for the program for the past 3 years. Dr. Kahn is a co-principal investigator of the 2020 Navajo Native American Research Centers for Health grant, and a collaborative partnership between Dine College and Northern Arizona University. Her current work is to support data collection and development for the project Dine Teachings and Public Health Students Informing Peers and Relatives About Vaccine Education, or RAVE. Her talk today is titled, If Not Us, Then Who? The Need for Faculty at TCUs to Build the Public Health Workforce. A true role model and inspiration, we are so excited to hear from Dr. Kahn today about the critical need for visibility and representation in STEM, and particularly in the health fields. Please welcome Dr. Kahn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me today. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Carmella Kahn, and I am of the Bitterwater clan, born for folded arms people. I live on the Navajo Nation in Shiprock, New Mexico, and I'm originally from Mariana Lake, New Mexico, and Pine Springs, Arizona. I'm happy to share who I am, my background, and also this call for need for faculty at TCUs. Next slide, please. So I'm an assistant professor at Dine College. I've been with Dine College for 4 years now, and I'm also the co-director of our Summer Research Enhancement Program. And this is my family. This is my mom and my nieces and nephews. She has more now, but I just wanted to share this early photo of them. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, I'm going to share my academic background and the journey I've gone through to be where I am today as a faculty member, and also to share more reasons why we need faculty members at TCUs. Next slide, please. So I have a funny story to share. When I started my educational journey, it started with me wanting to drop out. And the reason for that is because when I was in kindergarten, I had a really hard time making friends. And I'm not sure to this day why that was, but instead of dropping out, my mom took me to the principal's office and she told him what was happening. And he came down to my level and he asked me, seriously, like, oh, I'm so concerned you're about to drop out. What is it that we can do to help you? And I mentioned that I had no friends. So he said that he would be my one friend in kindergarten. And he asked me not to drop out because I now had a friend. So after that, I agreed and I was like, okay, I'll stay in kindergarten. And so since then, it was a life lesson that, when you go through your academic journey, it's usually who you know and your social support system that gets you through that system. So next slide, please. So we all face these pivotal moments in our lives that change the trajectory of where we end up. For me, it started early on. I grew up in Pine Springs, Arizona on Navajo Nation, and we grew up with no running water, no electricity. So early on, I knew what was instilled in me was a lot of cultural values and teachings from being Dine or Navajo. And that really strengthened who I was and understanding not to take life for granted. And then when I was 10, we moved to my mom's community of Mariana Lake, New Mexico, which was on Navajo Nation. And one of the biggest lessons I also learned was that although we kind of see the outside world as sick, scary, and dangerous, and that there's racism that exists, but we can also face these aggressions in our own communities. So when I attended boarding school, I did not speak Navajo. I was new to the community. And so a lot of my peers bullied me and they talked to me in Navajo and they were saying dirty things to me and I couldn't understand them. So facing that early on kind of gave me some tough skin, but also realizing that there's a lot of internalized, things happening in our own communities that work to oppress us as well. So that was a life lesson. And then when I went to high school in Gallup, I was my freshman year, I lost my father. He passed away from heart disease. And so that was another big changing moment in my life because I was really interested in health after that point, wondering why, what were the factors that led to my father passing away when he was only 47 years old. And my mom, she took on a strong lead to be a single parent and provide for 4 of us, her kids, and also encourage us to apply to college. And I honestly was not fully prepared for college. I basically kind of slipped in at the very last minute. I had no idea my senior year that we were supposed to be applying for colleges and scholarships. It took a close friend of mine who asked me, like, where are you going for college? And I was like, what? We're supposed to apply? And so after that, I really took off and I started doing my own research. And so it kind of got me to this early question early on in our education system of who is responsible for preparing students for college, especially students who come from communities that normally don't go to college. And so unfortunately, I got into the University of Arizona, but it was then again another major, pivotal moment where my mom, she took me to Tucson, and I was so thankful because it was a privilege, having not a huge income, but also she really felt it was needed for me to visit the campus. But it was the only campus I visited. So when I got there, she was like, okay, make a decision. If you say no, we're never coming back here again because we don't have the money. And otherwise choose something closer to home. And so I was just like, I had no idea that where Tucson even ranked the school or anything like that. So I just made that choice at that point, like, okay, I'm just going to take a risk and I will attend University of Arizona. So when I went to college at University of Arizona, I completed my undergrad and my graduate program there. And knowing what it takes to succeed in college is always a big question for all of us. For me, it was definitely knowing who I am, my purpose, that I am there for a reason, and especially my cultural teachings. And I got a lot of preparation from a program called Headlands. It helped me place high in my placement exams. I also took advantage of tutoring and also meeting instructors and seeing them as normal people. So I would often go to their office hours, or they also provided opportunities for students to go to Broadway shows and go to restaurants and kind of get to know the faculty. And I took advantage of that. And also taking on a leadership role with ACES, which is a science and engineering club for American Indians. And I also was brave and I applied for internships through the National Institutes of Health. And when I was in undergrad, I also worked in a cancer biology lab. My first mentor was Dr. Margaret Birrell, and under the Partnership for Native American Cancer Prevention, I learned my first, where the career path I needed to go on, because Dr. Birrell asked me, what are you really passionate about? And I told her it was working with communities. So at that point, she was like, oh, okay, not really, maybe you shouldn't really work in a cancer biology lab if you really want to work with people in the community. So she mentioned public health, and I had no idea what that was. But fortunately, Dr. Norma Gray was my next mentor, and she was a faculty member at the University of Arizona College of Public Health. And she took me under her wing. She took a risk and a chance at hiring me for my first job opportunity in public health with a Native American youth program and a family program called Seeds of Wellness. And so with that, she mentored me, guided me, and with under her, I did a project called Grow Native with community members, and we did a gardening program for American Indian youth in Tucson. And that was really exciting because I got to see how our cultural strengths can be applied in public health. And I was funded through research assistantships and scholarships to pay for my MPH program. And so under her guidance, I honestly would never have applied for the master's program, but she said I could do it. And she held my hand through the whole application process. And she's the one who was responsible for helping me apply to the DRPH program. So with the doctoral program, at that point, unfortunately, Dr. Gray decided to retire. And so I got a new mentor with Dr. Nicolette Tuffelshone. And like I said, it's the people who that get you through, the programs and school. So with Dr. Nicolette Tuffelshone, she gave me a lot of opportunities. She gave me a job. She also guided me through my dissertation. And so with the first job I had with Seeds of Wellness in the youth program, we had a community advisory board, and they also guided me through my dissertation work. So I did my dissertation with this community advisory board. We did a food access and food security project using digital stories. And we wanted to see if we could build awareness and policy using this project for American Indians community members in Tucson. And I was also a leader and a founder of the American Indian and Indigenous Health Alliance, which was a student club in Tucson. And we promoted social support and cultural support for American Indian students going through the public health programs at our college. Next slide, please. So when we go on this doctoral journey, I considered it a marathon because I knew I was in competition with myself, with my committee. I was in competition with time. And so you really are pushing yourself through this race, this marathon. There's a lot of hurdles you come across. And one of those for me was life events. I went through a time of depression. My relationships took a hit. During that time, I went through a divorce. I also, there's a time period when you're really focused on your dissertation that you start ignoring everyone in society. For the last 2 years, I would say I just said no to everything. I was alone a lot, and you really get lonely sometimes and you feel like you lose direction. So those are some of the challenges you face going through your doctoral work. And also the factor of money. How do you pay for a doctoral program? So for me, I did everything from scholarships to fellowships to funding for projects. I took out student loans. So anything I could do to get through that time and support myself financially. And also, so despite those hurdles, what are the things you got to do to get through it? So for me, when I knew I was depressed, I decided to get some counseling, and something a lot of students don't really talk about, but counseling is definitely support. You should get that through your school or through any other means that you can find. And I got some ceremonies done through my family. They helped me. I made sure to start praying every day and eating well. Running every day helped me a lot. And in the end, knowing that I needed to give up and say no and sacrifice a lot. So I gave up my social life probably for like the last year or so. And also my cohort, they were the strongest supporters because they knew what I was going through. And those who graduated before me, they gave me the best advice, the best motivation. They helped me address some of the challenges I was facing. And also the advisory board I worked with, because I was committed to that advisory board finishing my project. They were like my biggest cheerleaders and partners to get through this. They helped me with my data collection and helping build a curriculum. And also, I just knew I was not going to give up. It took me a longer time to finish my doctoral degree, but in the end, I knew it was my time, and I just kept moving forward, and I was going to keep running until I crossed that finish line. So those were the things that I was feeling at that time. Next slide, please. So I'm going to now share how I got into the role of being a faculty member at Dine College. Next slide. So for me, it was a ladder. In the beginning, I was a teaching assistant for the University of Arizona for graduate students, and I did not like it. I felt like the students were always arguing with me. They always wanted to debate. They always wanted to argue for a better grade. And they didn't really see me as good. I think also because I was Native American female and I was young compared to a lot of my cohort, the students in the graduate program. But so when that first experience, I told Dr. Teufelschoen, like, I don't want to become a teacher or instructor. It's very challenging, and it's not really, I'm not comfortable with it. But she kind of gently pushed me despite my concerns, and she encouraged me to be a guest presenter for the summer research enhancement program and also Dine College. And so when I did that, I actually enjoyed it. I was like, wow, I get to share, more of an Indigenous perspective to public health to American Indian students. And I felt more in my place, that it was a really beneficial thing to help students who were undergrads, and I enjoyed it. And so they invited me to be a full-time instructor for the summer research program. And I got some great mentoring by Dr. Heather Dreyfus and Dr. Mark Bauer. So I think it really takes people who know how to teach well, and that was Heather and Mark. They gave me some really great skills, teaching tips, and built my confidence to be an instructor. So by the time I finished my dissertation, a full-time faculty position was open at Dine College, and I applied. And so that's where I am now. And now, being my 4th year as a faculty member, I can confidently say, yes, I got this. And it's all due to the strong mentoring that I had along the way. Next slide, please. So currently I serve as a co-principal investigator with the Navajo NARCH program, and I'm in that role with Dr. Bauer and Dr. Teufelschoen. And we have a pipeline program that we run. We have a high school component, we have an undergraduate component that I'm going to share more about, and then we also have a graduate component that NAU does with their MPH Indigenous Health Track. Next slide, please. So my role as an assistant professor is I do a lot of evaluation with our program. We definitely have to improve our program every year and collect the data and evidence that shows we're constantly improving. I also advise and mentor students. We have about 127 students this year. So that's quite a bit of a number of students that we get to work with every day. And I teach 3 to 4 classes a semester, including Intro to Public Health Leadership Seminar course, and currently a project called RAVE. It's about vaccine education with students and having to be health messengers for a semester. And then I also am the co-director for our summer research enhancement program. So my role is to train our staff to develop the curriculum, organize the program every summer, and also teach the classes that we offer and digital storytelling through that program. And of course, being a faculty member, it involves a lot of collaboration. So I'm also constantly given a lot of requests, and I do a lot of grant writing with my colleagues. So some of the other challenges that we face as faculty at tribal colleges, well, specifically, I could say from Dine College, my perspective of that is it's definitely a smaller system. There's limited staff, limited faculty. We have like many roles to fill, and it can really stretch us thin. And also compared to university, things run slower, things get processed slower. We use a lot of forms and not really a computerized system. Hiring people can take a while. And also turnover is high. We lose a lot of people, sometimes funding ends, and that's why we lose those key people. We have challenges with technology. It takes a while to make changes that are sustainable, and also just us balancing the load that we have as faculty can be a challenge. But the benefits that I've seen is definitely, I'm happy that I'm closer to home. I can see my family and visit them more often. I have housing through the faculty housing. I also enjoy the fact that Dine culture is promoted in our college. So I get to sit in on presentations on cultural teachings and also learn strategies for teaching using a cultural approach for American Indians, and also using our innovation and creativity. I like the fact that when I create my curriculum, it can be from an Indigenous worldview. And I feel like, we have a lot of our own answers within our own teachings. And being in a small setting is really great as well, because I feel like working in a small network of faculty, we know each other really well. My mentor, Dr. Bauer, is very patient and has taught me a lot about the ins and outs of the college. So these are just photos of our SHREP program. You can see we engage the students, and it's a really fun summer program when we're in person. This summer, we're also going to do it in person again. We switched it to online during the pandemic, but I'm really happy that we're going to be back to an in-person program. Next slide, please. So why do we need more faculty at TCUs? Well, the reason from my experience and perspective is because a lot of the current faculty are retiring or they're thinking about retiring very soon. So there's a need for more faculty. And there's also a lot of amazing research opportunities just for TCUs. There's a lot of funding opportunity, research, working in the community setting, getting and offering training and professional development. And I also appreciate the fact that a tribal college like Dine College is grounded in cultural philosophy. We follow It's in our curriculum, it's in the Dine College itself, the mission, and we can apply this so that students can relate more to what we are teaching them. And we also feel like it really shows that, Indigenous way of thinking is valid, and we also value it as well. And so for why we need more Indigenous faculty as well is because my students do tell me that they appreciate, the chance to have Indigenous role models, because I do invite guest presenters such as my friends who graduated from U of A. They are predominantly American Indian, and they now fill like really important roles, throughout different organizations. So they're like, wow, it can be done. It is possible. I can see myself, following their footsteps, and they get motivated and encouraged. And also, we always talk about this institutional shift that needs to happen. So in order to do that, we got to serve along in those stepping stones. So I feel really proud that I am creating one of those stepping stones by fulfilling a role as an Indigenous faculty at Dine College. And so when public health itself, it's a really growing field. There's a lot more programs being offered, especially online. And I'm really happy to see that there's a nationwide growth of Indigenous public health programs in particular. And also our students are really interested in that, and they really are, want to go into those programs, but a lot of times they don't really want to leave home. So they're more attracted to these online programs that are provided, but they offer an Indigenous perspective. And also just the fact that, we know the importance of health promotion and health prevention. It is strongly needed along side by side with medicine, but we don't really have enough people trained, and those skills and the knowledge, and also policy is a really key aspect of that. And I also encourage when we apply the Indigenous determinants of health, which is like the social determinants of health, but it's using an Indigenous perspective. So we can create new approaches and innovation to address our health disparities and become, coming from our own perspective, it's really important to see that we have the answers. We just need to find a way to translate that and apply it in our own work settings. And so with this pandemic that we've all faced, there are going to be more challenges in the future, more monsters, so to speak, in the future. So we need those champions to step up and join the workforce. For me, I decided to come home because I knew I wanted to be of service to my people. And I knew that no matter, even if the pay was low, even if there's issues with housing, even, the political challenges, a lot of the red tape, I knew despite all that, my place was home and to help build this leadership capacity. So this is a quote I really like. It says, "Leadership and respect for leadership is where education starts. Today, no one steps forward to take charge. I worry about where education is not taking the Papago or the Donna Otham. And this was a quote by Peter Blaine Sr., who was a leader of the Donna Otham. And I read about him and I respect his leadership. And it's a really good book that he has about his life. So if you have a chance, please look it up. But I also feel this way because I feel that, you know, if it's not us, then who? You know, we need those champions to take that lead. And also, even despite the challenges, we can do it. So I really feel strongly about that. Next slide, please. So that concludes my presentation. And if any of you want to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to have you contact me. Here's my email address. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kahn, for that wonderful presentation. I learned a lot, quite a bit. And I also am in full support of, yes, we do need more faculty returning back to their home communities and teaching in their tribal colleges and universities. So you brought across several great points. And so, yes, thank you again for taking time and joining us today. Very much appreciated. All right, so we are coming to the end of our time together. And let me go ahead, and we have some door prizes to announce. So as we advertised, we do have 10 $25 gift cards that we will be awarding today, and one grand prize, 2022 SACNAS NDI STEM conference registration. And so I'll go ahead and announce the 10 gift card winners. First, we have Cordell Chirac, Melissa White, Joseph Hardy, Joseph Gazingwolf, Nicole Benally, Angela Riggs, Katie Robbins, Cristobal Cotto, Simona Mitak, and Elena Simbarek. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. We will be contacting you by email, so be sure and check your email and also your spam and junk email as well. And here is our grand prize winner of the registration for our conference registration, Earl Crosswaite from Saginaw Chippewa Tribal College. So Earl, again, we will be contacting you by email to provide more information. So be sure and check your email. And we are again inviting all of you to join us at this year's SACNAS National Diversity in STEM Conference. We are excited to be back in person and are planning an amazing conference experience for all attendees. Our registration will open on April 18th. And as Katarina shared earlier, we are currently accepting applications for research proposals, presentations, and travel scholarships. And we're also accepting proposals for featured tracks and professional development sessions. To learn more, we ask that you please visit our conference website at sacnas.org/conference. Also, if you are not already a member, we would love to have you join us. We have tiered memberships that include students, new professionals. That also includes recent grads and postdocs, professionals, and lifetime members, as well as a free community membership. Students, if you would like assistance obtaining a membership, we can help. Student memberships are given out on a first-come, first-served basis. To learn more, please visit our membership page at sacnas.org/memberships, or you can email members@sacnas.org. And here is some exciting news for TCUs. We are going to be starting a TCU virtual chapter. The sign-up will begin on April 1st, and we will be getting information out to all TCU campuses very soon. The TCU virtual chapter will host monthly meetings and share information on the opportunities and resources for STEM students, as well as provide information on how to start a chapter at your own campus. We will be offering incentives to TCUs who would like to start a chapter, and also to advisors who are willing to help get a chapter started. If you would like more information about this opportunity, please contact me at Darryl, D-A-R-R-Y-L, @sacnas.org. Also, I would just like to remind our participants that registered for today, we would love to get your feedback on our event. So please be on the lookout for a short follow-up survey to come in the next few days. We would like to thank our speakers and panelists again for being a part of this inaugural event. Dr. Baker, Dr. Kahn, Autumn, Sophia, Gerald, Najun, Dr. Padilla, and Dr. McDonald, and as well as our co-hosts, the Aseto'ne Network Project team, Reno, Maggie, and Lisa. And to our SACNAS staff, a huge thank you, Elizabeth, Katerina, Daniela, and Angel. We would also again like to thank GM, General Motors, for the support to help us grow SACNAS chapters and engage with tribal colleges and universities. Thank you all again for taking time to be with us today. We hope you enjoyed the event, and we hope to see you all at our 2022 SACNAS NDI STEM Conference in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Aho, thank you, and have a great rest of your week.